Well, good morning, everybody. Oh, this is not the plan. This is not how this was supposed to work this morning. Boom, let's go. Okay. I don't know what that was, but we got it together. Good morning, everybody. This is Apostle Crystal Lee. Excited to be here with you this morning for 111 days of kinetic prayer. And we are still on the topic of the mysteries of the unseen realm, the manifested mind. This is part 3 of the manifested mind. I have with me this morning Apostle Ace and Prophet Marlise. I'm glad that they are here this morning. We're going to have a good conversation this morning that's going to be very enlightening, and it's going to really help us to move forward in the things that the Father is calling us to do and understand the penalties and the blessing of following what the Father has given us to do. It's so powerful to understand how we were created. And it's a thing that a lot of times we're not very mindful of. We're not very mindful of our creation, but the word declares that David asked, why is the Father so mindful of man? Why is his mind full of the thoughts and the ideas and the concepts that surround this man? Why? Because we're his crown creation, first of all. And he's made us his arms, his legs, his mind, his mouth in the earth. And so he has a fascination with his creation. I don't know about you, but anything I create, even if I'm cooking something, I'm fascinated with what I do. I know that it's good, so it's just an amazing moment when you see what you've created and you're like, now that's something right there. That's something right there. And the Father said it was very good when he created the man. He understood also that man needed partnerships. And so I'm thankful for partnership this morning. In the way of Apostle Ace and Prophet Marlise. Good morning, Prophet Marlise. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. I,
Outstanding.
and I truly know that you all are doing wonderful and well and blessed and amazing.
Absolutely. Is there another
And
option? Listen,
there
don't say
is no other option.
no other options. I say no, thank you. In the words of my granddaughter, I don't like it. I don't want it. No, thank you. That's
Okay.
no, thank you. That's Miss Sophia. We've been saying that for years. That is her words. Apostle Ace, good morning, brother. How are you?
Well, shalom and grand rising to everybody and to you. It is indeed a pleasure being here, and I'm listen. I'm ready for your conversation.
I'm ready for the conversation as well. Absolutely. We are, let me see where we are on the timeline of this morning. We're in the 90 something day. This is just amazing to me. Every time I read it, it's just amazing to me. I'm just baffled that the Father would call us into 111 days of anything. It's just amazing. Okay, but we are in day 94 of prayer. And that's just in the 111 days segment of things. Because before this, we were doing kinetic prayer. And then we are in day 89 of the fast. Come on, y'all, let me know. I'm in the number. I am in the number. And we're in those final days of kinetic prayer, and we are dealing with the faculties of the life of mankind, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the nose, all of these portals, all of these openings, these gates, these entry points by which access is given. Okay. And so we want to deal with these areas because what the Father's bringing us into, if you remember the Father having this conversation via his son Moshe, he told the people, he said, listen, when you get, he didn't say if you get there. He said, when you get into the land, there's a certain way that you're going to need to conduct yourself. There's a certain way you're going to need to function. You're going to need to operate a certain way. In other words, I have particular systems that are established for your success. And if you follow the system that is established for your success, you will never lose. You'll never be in a position where you don't have what you need, because this land that I'm giving you, I watch over that land. He said, this land is not like Egypt. They had the water crops. They had to go through all these changes. He said, no, you're not going to have to do all that. And really, what he did was take them back to the garden place, because think about it. In the garden, there was no need for a man to till or to water the garden, because the garden took care of itself. It had a system, a program that was already in it to do what needed to be done. The waters would rise from beneath the earth and water the ground. The Father said to them, he said, listen, I handle this land that I'm giving you. You don't have to go through a whole bunch of stuff. You don't need a whole lot of systems established for this, because I am the God of this land and I watch over it day and night. I got my eye on it. You know what I'm saying? And what it needs, I will supply what it needs so that you have what you need. And all your position is, as a son of Yah, is to be in relationship with me, in whole relationship with me, following my statutes, obeying my commands, being led by my instructions. And as you do that, everything that you need is going to be supplied. There's going to be nothing that you lack in this land because I'm watching it. Right? And so such a powerful position when we think about that. He literally took them back to Eden. And we've been talking about the Eden within. We've been talking about getting back to that place called Eden, but it's a thing that has to happen internally before it begins to manifest externally, because everything that we're dealing with internally is the thing that forms the imagination, the ideologies, the concepts, and this is what causes our minds to manifest our worlds, right? Apostle Ace, we're going to talk about some stuff this morning. We're going to talk about some stuff. You know, I was thinking before I got on this morning about a couple of things, and I was thinking about how from the beginning, the very beginning of the conversation, as we know it, there was an enemy whose sights were set on the seizing of the authority of man. Now, how he would seize this authority was via the access of the mind. He would create a pathway into the mind via a man's appetites, and he would gain access to the man's core, the foundational mechanism of mankind, the soul. And this is, if you listen to anybody in the history, including in the day and age that we live in, even through TV shows, there's this ongoing theme of mankind wicked mankind devising the acquisition of the soul of man, because this is how man thinks, this is how he feels, and how he animates. And if you remember properly, this is the very space, the very place that man first experienced life. All of what man would ever experience is attached to the foundation, the root of who man is, a living soul, right? The mind, the will, and the emotions. Name any victory or any defeat of a man from the scripture or otherwise, and you'll trace that outcome back to the mind. Saul became a new man as a result of his mind to follow the instructions of the prophet Samuel, and this same man began his descent from his kingdom in the disobedience of waiting for Samuel to come and make the sacrifice. The mind is the navigation system of man into his future. The future of man is a product of the manifesting mind. And one of the most dramatic stories that I can remember to date of the transformative power of the mind is the story of Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel, who after having experienced the power and the authority of Almighty Yah, began to have a puffed up thing going on with him. He began to declare himself something more than what he was. He began to not acknowledge what he had seen and began to tout himself as some great one, as if he was the reason why he had the authority that he had and the kingdom that he had. He was self-made. And in that self-made mindset, there became a decay. There became a thing where he began to be turned into an animal. And this is serious. You know, mankind doesn't understand the real time effects that the mind has on the man. Because by your thought process, you can become a whole nother person. And we know this to be true because when a man chooses to deal in different spirits or different things, and I'll just use natural things like drugs or alcohol, you can look at somebody that was a very outgoing, very charismatic, very handsome, or a very beautiful person, a very alluring person, and based on that spirit that they chose to fraternize with, to operate with, it changed the whole visage, it changed the whole makeup, it changed their whole appearance. This is what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. He thought himself to be more than what he was. He exalted himself above Yah, and his exaltation above Yah made him a beast in the field. Apostle Ace?
Yes, yes. Oh my, oh my. Uh, I just, as you were talking, and I'm listening and dealing with the mind. The first thing that came to my mind was uh, being holy.
Yes.
WHOLLY, spirit, soul, and body, and then talking about the soul being the foundation. And so it's just interesting that we in the, we coming up in the Christian world and religion, and a lot of times they talked about HOLY, holy.
Yeah.
And so they was concerned so much about being HOLY instead of being WHOLLY, holy, spirit, soul, and body. And we saw that here was a division within ourselves, and we see that there was, how if we're not holy, how that we can begin, the mind can begin to be deprogram or reprogram into an area that brings out, here's the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, and the pride of life. If I can get to your soul, and David said, purge me with hyssop, wash me, and there has to be a purging in the mind. Of the mind, because the enemy knows, and so even Yah himself, having going back to the garden, there was a created mind, and then there was the formed mind, and so when we look at that, the mind, how is the mind? Is it a created mind? Is it the area of the flesh, or is it the area of Yah? Because if I can get to you consciously first, then I can corrupt. I can give you some things. I can give you things that to look at it is beautiful. I can give you things that taste good. I can give you things that the illusion. And so all of a sudden, if I can get this into your conscious mind, and you're conscious of this. And so whatever goes to the conscious mind, it goes to the subconscious, where we deal with the soul.
That's it.
Because where we deal with the soul, that's how we operate out of the soul. We take in, and then we begin to operate, and that's the program, what we call the matrix. We begin to do what has come in. So if I can give you this illusion, if I can give you all this, because now I can reprogram you, or I can brainwash you.
Oh my, oh my. Oh my!
And once I brainwash you, and if I could get this early in your life, because a lot of times we look at a child, how do I brainwash you? Repetition is the school of learning, or the repetition of getting you to believe what I want you to believe. And I give you over and over and over and over again. So therefore you begin to believe your name is no longer Ace, but Bob.
Come on now. But that's, what people don't understand, that faith comes by hearing. We only hear the one perspective. It's a principle that faith comes by repetition.
Well, Apostle, we're not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. Oh my.
Amen. All right. So Apostle, she's working out her technical difficulties, because I can't hear her either. So she's
Okay.
going out and having to come back in. So
Mm-hmm.
continue with what you're saying.
Yeah. So
Apostle.
so that mind, how the reprogramming and how it is, the brain, we use the word brainwashing and the repetition. Like I said, the repetition is the school of learning. And, if you hear things over and over and over again, then you begin to conform to this. And so therefore I have to give you something, and then you begin to believe what that is. Even with Yahweh, repetition is a school of learning. We have the feast, we have the Sabbath. It's repetition, and it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a lifestyle. So the enemy understands this whole process of conforming, the mind, transforming into the mind into something other than what it is intended to be. Because this is how I want you to be. Because when I get to your soul, then you're gonna begin to play and replay what has come through the conscious mind. And then it gets into the subconscious. And as we begin to work this out, we begin to repeat it. We begin to repeat it over and over and over again. So therefore, when it happens, then we're not spiritually conscious of things that is around us. We're not so much aware, because it's almost like you could be riding in the car and you see everything, but your mind is someplace else. But you operating on the subconscious by driving, and now your mind is someplace else. You're in the present, but now you're rehearsing some things in your mind over and over and over again. And so it's just really something that we begin to operate in our soul. And so we understand that soul, now, as I was saying, that, being holy. It's interesting that we so interested in, oh, I'm saved and I got faith. And the thing about it is, everything else is now lacking. Everything else is lacking. My soul is corrupt because I'm hearing things that I'm into the gates, into the ear gates, into the eye gates, that the words and the illusion of things that has, now I'm looking at certain things, and so it's not matching up with my faith. My spirit is not matching up. And so therefore I'm doing things that saying, you might hear someone, you so heavenly minded, earthly good. So now I'm here. So now I want to be earthly good. So now that's breaking or the division within us as spirit, soul, and body. Because here's spirit, the faith, consciousness, the soul, how we operate, and the body in doing doing the things that is necessary. So most of the time we're not holy, we're not WHOLLY, and the question is, are we really HOLY? Because we have been
My Lord.
programmed in the mind.
Mm. Wow. Wow. So now, what come to mind as you were talking was when I was in my earlier adulthood, we used to have these reasoning sessions. And
Mm-hmm.
one day, um, before I started joining these sessions, um, and they would be with community folks, just the youth or the young folks like me or young adults that would gather, okay? And so one day, the Holy Spirit said, what you do repetitiously becomes habit. Habit
Mm-hmm.
becomes a way of life. A way of life is imprinted in your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And that is transferred from generation to generation. Because they were talking about this, when the Holy Spirit gave that to me as a way of showing how things come about and why certain things take place in people. They start out one way and then all of a sudden they're changing, or their environment changing, and then they adapt to it, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
good for them or not. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we come into the space of what we say is church. Okay. And we start out well, but then over time, the environment or the things that are set up and the way they're set up, you're having to do these certain things. You know, when I come through, you stand up. When I wait until I tell you to sit down. You know what I'm saying? Just anything. And now, over time and habit throughout years, it becomes a way of life. And they don't see it no other way. They don't see other avenues. They don't see that there are multiple ways of executing a task. There's multiple ways of worship. There's multiple ways of having the relationship with Yah. Yeah, there are things that will be staples that are foundation, but after that, it's just like building a house. You can build a house and structure it however, but it's still a house. It's still gonna have bedrooms, a bathroom, a living room, and a kitchen. It's gonna have the basics. But now what you do with the rest of that, as far as design, interior, expansion, etc., that's where you follow. So what happens is they get stuck in the habits, the repetition, like you said, the repetition, how they teach is repetition. And you say brainwash. It's not teaching, it's brainwash. Because if it was teaching, it would teach you to expand, question, and discover. Expand your way of thinking. Test what is being taught. See how other avenues can go. And so now what we're having in this time is an alternate type of teaching. Now the parents know one way of math and then the kids know another. Because there was no expanding or no discovery outside of what I give you, So now they're changing it. I'm going to give you this now based on the person who's coming in from a different environment. So, even down to holy, what does holy look like? Oh, I'm supposed to act like this, supposed to dress like this, supposed to smell like this, supposed to dance like this, supposed to say glory, hallelujah like this. And it becomes repetition. It becomes, it's not authentic. Which means it's robotic, it's repetition. Which means there is no true commitment, if you will. And so now we have this inauthentic design. Even though we're all made authentically different.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's another reason why we have so many different denominations that believe one thing versus another. What they practice and their protocols and all this other stuff. To make sure there is a repetition, there is a duplication without expansion, or because most people don't know how to get closer, or so some people say deeper. Go deeper in your relationship with Yah,
And a prophetess, as you were sharing, thought about going back to the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt into the wilderness, and they had multi languages at that point because they had been in Egypt 400 years. And so they had many languages, they was no longer the same individuals when they came into Egypt than when they came out of Egypt. And it's interesting because Yah, through Moshe, led them into the wilderness to give them one mind. one mind. He gave them the laws, the commandments, the precepts, everything that was in his mind, his thoughts, his ways. He gave it to them, and then he began to, as it began to be, it was repetition, the teaching over and over and over again, because now it has to become a lifestyle through practice, obedience, practice, practice, and to begin to get their minds. And we learned that what took place in the wilderness, that they could not lose their mind. They could not lose their old way of thinking, their created mind, to be changed, because we know the results was only two crossed over to the promised land that came out of Egypt, because now those who were born in the wilderness had a different mindset than those that came out of Egypt. So the ones that was born in the wilderness, that's all they knew was what Yah had said. They knew the vision. They knew everything that was written down, opposed to those who came out with a different mindset of Egypt. And so they could not, because every now and then in reading their story and reading what they, oh, you brought us out here, we should go back to Egypt. We should always go back, because the mindset, they could not get out of that space, or that limitations that was there. They could not break through, because they had something that what was there in their soul, the things that was there, and they begin to act out. And that's what happens when our souls gets corrupted. We gonna act out what has been implanted or birthed in us. We're gonna work that thing out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, you're
I
back.
made it back. I made it back.
Amen.
I'm glad
You know,
the camera came on and everything. I was like, Lord, have mercy. Anyway, have mercy. The thing about it is, as you're talking about that, Apostle, I'm thinking about that process of reborn. You know, there's a constant rebirthing of something. There are many new births. There are many births, you know, and a lot of people are just thinking of the one, you know, the one birth. But what Caleb and Joshua, or Yeshua was his name, allowed to happen was a constant rebirthing of the experience, a rebirthing of the covenant, a rebirthing of the relationship. Because every time the Father did something, they were reborn again. They were reconvinced again of who he was. While on the other hand, the others were constantly beholding to what they were born into, which was their slavery. You know, they had a mind of service to another master. And like you said, the Father brought them into that wilderness space to purge them, to purify them. He took them completely away from everything and didn't allow any structure. There was no kind of structure in the wilderness. Why?
No.
Everything that is built has a structure. It has a wilderness. He was building them without the addition of any other kind of structure that could have been touched, that could have been idealized by man, right? So he brings it into an environment where he is the master builder, and then he gives vision for something to be built to give access from the heavens to the earth. Access, angelic agencies, and you know, the portals and all, just give direct access to them, and they didn't even know what to do with it, because in their minds they were corrupted. They were corrupted. Not to mention that was with them was continuing to further corrupt the whole situation, right? So somebody might ask, well, why would the Father allow the other people to come with them if it was going to occur? Guess what? You only going to do what you want to do, what you think in your heart and your mind to do is what you're going to do. Yourself with. You know, I was talking to my daughters yesterday, and I said, y'all need new friends. My oldest daughter was like, I am. She's like, I'm getting new friends. I'm meeting new people, because we are limited in our reach, in our connection. Because most people that are church people, even if you have friends that are ratchet, they still church ratchet. You know what I'm saying? They are. You know, they still connected. They still have a religious overtone, about them. But where are the Bible talks about making friends with unrighteous mammon? That means you need to be in different spaces and different places. That means you got to actually do what you're called to do in order to get into environments where you can be connected to other people, meet other people. Church people only hang out with church people. They only have friends that are church people. And I'm saying, how is that helping you? Because you can't call none of them and say, hey, I need $1 million real quick for this deal. Hello? You make that phone call because they don't have it. They hoping and wishing for $1 million just like you need it to make the deal.
Come on now.
But you've got to put yourself in different environments because this is a part of who we are. He said, go ye. So in the going, I'm meeting other people as I'm going. I'm into contact. What did the master? The master's contact with the people that he came in contact to or with was a result of him obeying the go. Obeying the mandate to go. And in his going, he met people that would become a part of not only his crew, but would be a part of those that would be in those regions doing what needed to be done according to what they experienced with him. Now, we were talking about something yesterday offline, and since we got in this direction, I missed a lot of the conversation because all of my devices went in another direction. But I know it's beautiful because when I got back on, I was listening and enjoying the conversation. I want to go in this direction of back in the direction of the mind as far as it pertains to how we're operating and what it creates in the mind, because a lot of people don't understand the connection that happens in the mind that creates the future of a person, right? And so when we look in the scripture, there are areas, and I use Nebuchadnezzar as one of the most hardcore facts, but there are areas where the Father discusses things with his people, and he says, listen, if you don't obey, if you're not able to do the things, if you don't take the time to do these things that I'm telling you to do, then pestilence, darkness, fasting, mildew, all of these things are a result of disobedience. And so we were talking about something yesterday, and I want you to kind of just jump into that conversation. I'm going to let you have the conversation this morning about what happens in the mind when we're not doing the thing that we're designed to do. The word says, lay not up for yourself treasures in the earth. And oftentimes when we're talking about storing up for ourselves treasures on the earth, people are just thinking about things, but they're not thinking about ideas. They're not thinking about the thing that we treasure, because the Bible talks about you treasure, your heart is there also. And we know that the scripture deals with the heart-mind connection. The heart is connected to the mind because a person can think in their heart, think in your heart. That's dealing with the core of who you are. Usually people think you think with your brain, right? But you think with your heart as well, because there's a dynamic connection from the heart to the mind. And this is where the issues of life come from. But we were talking about this, and it's storing up treasures in the heavenly place. The mind that is lifted, the mind that is, and I wanted to go into this yesterday, how he the glory and the lifter of our head, how we think about these things is so religious because we don't understand that the Father is exalting the mind of man, or putting the mind of man in a very high place, because there's a frequency that we need to be dealing from that's going to protect us from the low place. The things that are corrupting, the things that have access to moth and dust, right? But come on, Apostle, go in the direction of this mildew of the mind, because we were talking about it, and I want to share that with the people.
And even as you were saying, Apostle, in the scripture, the thought of, if my people,
yes,
which are called by my name, would humble themselves, pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways. And so many people get this wrong. He says, then I will hear from heaven. Himself, he said, I will hear from heaven. And then the results of hearing from heaven, what he would do for the people, he will heal their sin. He was things will get straightened out, but he has to hear from heaven. Where is heaven? If he got to hear from heaven, where is heaven? In us, it's the mind because what's in our mind produces what he hears and not seeing.
That's it.
So when we talk about the things that takes place, and as we had that discussion yesterday, and here's a thought in Leviticus chapter 14
Yes.
and verse 34 and verse 44, and it says, and talking about the priests, and talking about when you enter into the land of Canaan, that's that promised land.
Yes.
That's the land that he said, I want to get back. That's my enemy occupied my land. But when you enter in the land of Canaan, I will give you as I gave, which I've given you as a possession, and I put a spreading mildew in a house in that land. That's interesting that the land is occupied by an enemy.
Yep.
And so y'all say, I have put the, because it's disobedient. It's in opposition of who Yahweh is. Everything that they're doing, they're producing idols and rituals and pagan rituals and all these type of sacrifices. And he said, this is my land. But he said, I put a mildew
Yes.
in this land because of who they are. They're anti-Yah. They are anti who I am. They are in opposition of who I am. So now he says in the 44th verse, he says, then the priest who is to go and examine it again, if the mildew it has spread it in the house, it is a destructive mildew, and the house is unclean. And so as we had this discussion, and so now we know he gives us this principle, he gives us this law, that when you get into the promised land, which I've given you, and it's occupied by enemy, but I got to give you everything. For your mind have to be right in order to go into possess. I'm gonna give you this, but you got to practice this. If you don't practice it, then it's not going to work. Because your mind, that's why those who died in the wilderness could not cross over, because their mind was mildew. The house, the spiritual house, there was the spiritual house, because they was in opposition of Yahweh. And what it produced death. A lot of people don't realize that mildew produces death. The worse it gets, the more it's there, the worse it gets. It begins to affect the body physically with allergies and eyes, the itching. But then it begins to work on the inside more, begin to work on your nervous system, and then it begins to work on the mind, the neurological thoughts of I can't think straight, and this and then you have brain fog and all these things of mildew, mold. And Yah created this based upon disobedience. So we see all of this, and as I was saying, I'm an inspector. I'm a judge. I go into people want to bless their houses, and the first thing I know, my nose get into operation.
Come on now.
Because I can smell mildew and mold quickly. And so that means, if I could go to a physical house and smell this, I can also be around somebody spiritually and smell it.
Come on now.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
And so therefore, if it's not dealt with, it's going to keep coming back. And so it's just interesting that how in the church world, people would, they on the weekend, they would, they party, what have you, and then come to church and I want to get a shout and everything, and try to figure out what's going on, why things ain't happening, because you're still in sin.
Mildew.
Mildew. Absolutely. So it's interesting how he said, I'm gonna put you in the land that is gonna be a lot of mildew. Don't even ask them how they've been blessed. Don't ask them how it worked, because what it does is contaminating, and you begin to convert in the ways of what they're doing.
My God.
Because what they have done, they have taken gold and silver and put it over the things that is not of Yah to make it look pretty, sound pretty, and it has a form
My
of,
Lord.
but there's no
No
power
power.
in it.
Come on,
Come on.
sir. Come
Come
on.
on.
Come
You
on.
see, so Yah, so as you were talking in the very beginning, because it's important to have one way, one thought, one mind.
Mhm.
And so it's just interesting because in Psalms 23, it's
Yes.
interesting. He said, you prepared a table
Mm.
before us in the presence of our enemies. So that table go back to the first 5 books, the Torah,
Period. Period.
our tables. Now I'm going to give you this. If you obey this, then you're going to be blessed in the land. Now, he said, I give you power to get wealth. And that
Yeah.
goes back into what you're saying, that we as in the church community, we develop church friends.
Come on
And
now.
so we developed these church friends, and so all our friends are poor. All our
All of them.
friends don't have no wealth. We're
Come on.
recycling this
Poverty.
mindset, poverty. Absolutely. And there are those outside of our limit of friendship, because what takes place then is when we begin to understand that, oh, you can't be around them, come out from among them, and
That
I
ain't what
used
it's
to I used to
talking
be
about.
silly.
Yeah, that ain't what
And
it's
I used
talking about. You know it.
and I used to argue with my mother, and she used to say, come out from among them,
That ain't
come
what
out. I said, well, I ain't going to school. She said, come out from among them. I ain't going to the store. I said, because Mom, everywhere I go, they're there. What do I do? And I can go to the store and have favor, and somebody and the cashier is cussing up a storm. But when I stand in front of her, then favor shows up.
That's it.
And she don't charge me the price of what the groceries is, and I go back home to my mom, and I play what I say. Hey, mama, can I have it? Here's your $5. What you got everything I told you to get? Yeah, here's your $5. Why? Because favor ain't fair.
That's it.
So therefore, I can stand in front of an enemy. I can stand because the enemy is in opposition of Yahweh, because we don't understand enemy. But yet at the same time, Yahweh said, I will use you. I will bless you by your enemies. When he said the wealth of the wicked is laid for the righteous, what does that mean? What does that look like? That means there's some wealth that's going to come. Oh my goodness. And we shared this when the glory of Yah comes upon you. Who's going to be attracted to you? Your friend that's repeated, well, woe is me. No. When the glory comes, it's going to attract kings.
Kings to the brightness.
Come on.
Come on now.
Come on.
So that's what it's going to attract. So that's how wealth comes, because I got to put myself in the position to even for them to be drawn to me. And so therefore, I have to get out from among them and be separate, because who am I among? Who I need to be separated with? Those who misery love company.
That's it. Those who are in direct opposition to Yah.
And I got to get away from it.
And he's not judging the world. That's not who he's dealing with there. Because even in the scripture, he talks about the brethren that we should have nothing to do with. This one right here, don't even eat with him. You understand? There were things that were very specific that he spoke of. That is an unequal yoking. Unequal yoking don't just mean I say I'm saved, you say you saved, we equally yoked. No. No. Because I can be equally yoked with somebody that other people deem an unbeliever. But unbeliever doesn't deal with whether we have the trigger words in order.
All right.
Come on now.
Unbeliever deals with the mindset of the man. Now, if a person's desire is to be complete, if a person's desire is to not be one that squanders, their liberties, they might not even have been introduced yet. Do you know that there are people that can live lives that are very, what's the word I'm looking for? That their manner of living can be very pure, and they not even know who Yah is yet.
Morally good.
Because they can be moral. There are people that have moral standards that people that say they believers don't even have.
Come on
you're
now.
trying to judge them as an unbeliever because they don't have your trigger words in order. They're not talking, the same church talk that you talk. And you're not understanding that person that's been set apart to be a financier of the kingdom may not yet have come into the understanding of why they want to do what they do. But when you show up on the scene, they now begin to get an understanding because of who you are, the living epistle that you are. It reveals to them that the Father has chosen them for this. It's not just something that you do. It's not just something that you desire. You've been chosen for this. This is what is driving you. The power of Yah is driving you in this area of giving, that you want to keep just giving to me. You want to just keep giving, and you can't get your hands on enough millions to give. Why? Because the Father knows that the kingdom has to be advanced, and so he chooses people, financiers, to advance this kingdom. And those people are oftentimes not believers, because let me tell you something about believers. When they get their hands on money, they grieve. Any church preacher that I can think of right now that has gotten his hand on money, his people can be in spaces where they don't have lights, gas, or a place to live, and he got a jet, Rolls Royce, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and they do it not just here in the U.S. but in Africa and everywhere else. It's a mindset that I got mine, and now you need to bow and worship me. It's not the mindset that was in Acts, where it was bring it all and laid at the feet of the apostles so we can distribute it, because the body needs to be whole. H-O-L.
Come on now.
Right? It's not that mindset. But when you're dealing with people that are not currently in the understanding, I'm not going to call them unbelievers, because belief, again, is not based on the trigger words. It's not based on the trigger position, because people automatically think if they see somebody in church, that means they saved. If you see somebody, they're believers. No, I know a whole lot of unbelievers. A whole lot of disobedient people go to church every Sunday and Bible study every Wednesday. And they're more ratchet than the people that are in the world. The only thing they've done is they've changed their position of ratchetness. I'm ratchet a different way. I'm not clubbing. I'm not doing all that. So they glorify that I'm not doing that. They underplay the fact that they're backbiters. They underplay the fact that they're seeking to kill the prophetic, that they seek to kill the move of Yah, because if the move ain't coming through me, I don't want to see it. I don't want to participate in it. They don't understand that unbelief doesn't have anything to do with their position or their location. It has something to do with the matter of the heart. So as we're looking into this space, the Father says, listen, there are others that are of this fold that are not yet in the fold. In other words, they are of me, they're yet not connected to me. Of means they have in mind my principles, my ideas, my concepts. They are of me, but they're not connected to me yet, because they don't even know why they're of that nature, why they have that. They just, they're just doing who they are. They're just being who they are. And this is the thing that we must identify with. And this is why a lot of people get stuck and they stay sick, because here's the thing. The Bible talks about the body that is weak and sickly, and many sleep. Why? Because they don't have a respect for the body. They don't have any reverence for the body, but they don't even know what the body is. And that's the problem. You were talking about that enemy. A lot of people don't know the difference between an enemy, a brother. They don't know what those terms mean. They just automatically attach those topics or those ideas to people that are in a space that's familiar to them. But they don't understand. I call a guy, this guy he cuss so bad, but I call him my brother because we're on the same page as far as it concerns freedom. He don't know why he is driven the way he's driven, but I do. Because I've been following this rabbit hole for years. And the Father used him in a shorter amount of time to go further than what I went to bring me back the information. Y'all don't understand. To bring it back to me. Go get this. Stay up at night. Lose sleep. Lose all of these things for the sake of accessing or acquisitioning this information just to bring it back to the apostle. Because she's been researching this. She's been looking for this. This is a part of the mass exodus that she's been prophetically declaring. And I need this information to be in her hands. Go get it. This person's not my enemy. This is my brother. You understand what I'm saying? Now, is he going to learn some things in the relationship? Absolutely. He's set to learn a whole lot of things. When he gets to those places where he says, well, I don't understand. Oh, I do. I understand. Here's the understanding of that. You remember the guy that was in the chariot and he was reading Isaiah and he didn't understand? What did the Father do? He had one of his sons outrun the chariot, catch up to the chariot, to get in the chariot, to give him understanding.
That was the eunuch that was reading.
Hello?
The eunuch that was in that chariot. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
he had somebody set aside to catch up with the chariot, to do something supernatural, to do something invincible, to do something that man deems impossible. A person that was not in the mind of just mere mankind, but in the mind of a God.
Come on.
Okay? In the mind of a monarch. And we do something that's above what just regular people do. And we manifest on a different level. This is how people are doing what they're doing. Even people that are wicked people, they understand the manifestation of the mind. And this is why the adversary is after your mind. Because if he can get a hold of your mind, then he can get a hold of your future and your legacy and generations beyond you. He will have a mastery. He will have a hold on the mind of those men so that they don't manifest. This is why the word says, let this. The Father gave us everything that we needed in order to understand the mind that we must have. And if your mind is any other way, the word says that the Holy Spirit will reveal, but even if he reveals it, if you don't receive it, then what? You don't come into the space.
You come into the space, that's it.
That is declared for you. The Father allows intentionally the enemy to ride in over our heads. Intentionally, he allows the enemy to ride in over our heads. You'll see this in many different spaces throughout the word, throughout this Bible canon that we have. You'll see it. Even in Daniel, he said some of the wise will fall. But this is for a time that's coming. It's for a time that they will be purified. This is for purifying them. Their fall is a purification, not a devastation. It's not a determination. It's not a final destination. Their fall is a purification. Are you hearing me? And this is why David can say, it was good that I was afflicted. You know why? Because he said, because I learned something. In the affliction, I learned your statutes. I learned your judgments. I learned your precepts. And now that I have a hold of that, can't nothing take it from me. I'm going to walk this thing out to the point that the Queen of Sheba going to show up in my space and be just like, you know what? I don't understand. I don't even understand what I'm looking at. I don't even understand the beauty of what I'm seeing. Kings shall be called to the brightness. They'll be drawn to it. It'll be like a magnet. When you arise and begin to shine, but many people are not in that space where they want to rise and shine. They want to keep repeating, keep replicating the same religious garbage and it to no effect, to no avail. Not understanding that that repetition is not bringing you into the space of replenishment. It's disconnecting you from the restorer of your soul. Why does he need to restore the soul? Because we come in contact with things every day. You ever been in the store and just started singing something that you heard and you never even learned that song before? There's constant things trying to attach to you every day. None of the thoughts you think are even your own because you're a transmitter. You're a projector. Something is being projected on. And so this is what every spirit is looking to do. Find a house that they can use as a projector of the images that they desire to release in the earth.
Ooh, my
so now
goodness.
look at your
Come
life
on.
and identify what image are you projecting?
Oh my.
Come on.
What are we projecting? What are we manifesting? What kind of manifested mind have we become? What is the world looking at when it looks at us? What is the world seeing when it looks at us? This is why I'm telling you, position yourself, get yourself in position. I ain't heard a whole bunch of calls lately about what I've been talking about this business thing. Y'all gonna wind up, I'm telling you, gonna wind up in a space where you're standing in a line trying to scan your head because you feel like you gotta eat. I gotta eat because I gotta take my medication. Right? That's gonna be your conversation. If you don't align yourself, but what is that? That's mildew. That's blasting. And that mildew turns into fungus, and fungus spreads. And if you read the book of Leviticus, this was a big deal. That's that robot shot. It's a big deal.
Come on.
That robotic
right.
Yeah. That robotic thing, that repetition, that ain't got nothing to do with the holy things of Yah, right?
Can we become AI?
In a space, and see, it sounds so far-fetched right now because everybody's, people are connecting to the line. You're listening to these words, and you may be excited about the words, and you may be taking notes, and you may be doing all these things. But if you take notes and don't take action, you wind up in a line scanning your arm. You understand what I'm saying? Because when the Father releases prophets in the land, he's releasing a word that's going to save his people. He's releasing a word that's going to bring deliverance to his people. But if we hear the words of deliverance and get excited about the words of deliverance, but don't step into the words of deliverance, we're going to
my goodness.
These children of Israel stepped into a land that was filled with milk and honey and turned it into a desolate place because their mind was on another mission.
My Lord, come on.
It was filled with milk and honey. They had to purify, they had to purge the land. That's why they had to get rid of all these other nations. He said, we're not going to do it all at once. You're going to be in the space, but you're going to have to fight in the space. You're going to have to keep overturning these other verdicts. You're going to have to keep pushing them out until the land is purified. It's the same process in the mind. There are things that you've been beholding your whole life. And what is the Father doing in the matured mind of a manifesting one? There are things that he brings up and says, see that? That's that religious garbage. Throw it out. Get your trash bags, fill them up with this trash right here, and take it to the curb and leave it there. Because this is keeping you out of a space that I've called you to. But we don't want to do that evaluation. We don't want to do that examination because we feel like if the Father's correcting us, then we're so terrible. No, it's not about being terrible. It's not about that. It's not about him not loving. No, it's not about that. He chastens those he loves.
Yeah.
He gives instructions to those he loves. Why? Because he wants you to be in the position. This is what parents do with their children. They say, you know what? This is the position that you need to hold. This is where you need to be. And if the child says, they always try to tell me what to do, how you going to say what you need to do and you don't know nothing? You don't know what the Father knows. But you deny every time the prophet speaks. Oh, you accept it because it's exciting, but you don't ever do it. You don't observe to do. And the word declares that in our lack of observance to do, we are deceiving ourselves.
Come on.
Apostle Ace?
I'm no longer free in the cage. I'm free from the cage.
Come on, Moshe. Come on. Real talk.
You know, there are many size cages,
Many sizes.
but if you're in the cage, you're limited.
Come on now.
You can only go so far. But when you're free from the cage, you become eternal, unlimited.
Come on now. That's that liberty Prophet Marlise talks about. That the limitations are a lack of liberty.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell you, you know, when I get to stuttering and get
Hey,
to go, you know, so it's just it's there.
come
You
on.
know, the Yah is moving by His Spirit, and
Yeah.
whoever is listening, you know, to hear what the Spirit is saying to them
Come on now.
right now. You know, see,
I
there's
dare you.
that,
I dare you this morning. Right where you are. I dare you. I double dog dare you to break out of the limitation. The Spirit of Yah is in the room to break you free. But you have to understand that the Spirit of Yah doesn't invade your space. The Spirit of Yah lives in your space if you allow Him. And living in your space, He has the house a certain way that He likes it. Hello? And if you allow Him to reorganize your furniture, if you allow Him to redecorate, to redesign, okay?
Come
To
on.
throw out the things that don't align with the design of the home that you're living in, okay? Then it'll be purged and it'll be right. But I'm daring you to step out of your limitation this morning. But you know what? In order to break a cycle, you got to do something wild. You got to do something different. And most people aren't willing to do that because they have the mind. See, what your mind does, your natural mind is there to protect you from foolishness, right? It's there to let you know that something is afoot. It's there to, and anything that challenges the mind from its normal position puts it in a fight or flight mode.
Uh-huh.
So you may be hearing the words that I'm speaking and say, you know what, I'm just going to get up and run. I really can't walk like that, but I'm about to get up and run. And your mind is saying, fool, are you crazy? You're going to fall. Hello? You're going to fall down. And if you allow your mind to talk to you, when the Father is releasing by His Spirit a word to you to break you out of a cycle and give you a new system, then you're going to remain in that place where moth and dust corrupt. You're going to remain in that place. You've been lifting up your head, but you've been letting the wrong thing in. You haven't checked the register. You know what word talks about? Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and the King of glory shall come in. That's a representation of one that sits in a high place that lifts up the bridge to allow access to the ships that are coming in. Well, when you allow access to ships, you got to check the manifest. Hello? You got to check the manifest to make sure that the manifest is in alignment with what's supposed to be coming through the gate. And if there's anything that is off according to the weight of that and the manifest declaration of that, then the ship is denied. I'm declaring to you that today you need to begin to identify the manifest of your life and see if these ships that are entering into your space are if they are worthy of coming through your gate. But the word is declared is that we bring every thought into captivity. That we take that imagination and interrogate it. Where is this? Where am I imagining this from? From what place is this imagination coming from? Why do I feel like I can't get beyond where I'm at? Where is this coming from? Because the word says that I'm healed, but I'm still in this space though. The word says that I'm healed economically, physically, spiritually, emotionally, relationally, but I'm in a place. And why am I still in this place? Because I'm not manifesting according to the new mind. I'm manifesting according to the old mind. So the word says, let this mind. Will you let it? Because only if you let it will He be glorified. Only if you let it will He be magnified. above your circumstance, above your situation. Only if you let it will men see and glorify you. If you let it. We're stepping into a space, into a territory in this season. Many of the sons that are on the front lines. Front line don't mean popular in the eyes of people. However, here's the catcher. We will become popular because of the position that he puts us in. But that doesn't mean we're going to allow our popularity to change who we are. Because there are many that have gone before us that were popular, but their popularity was just about the people. It wasn't for the purpose of influencing the people in the godly way or in the godly manner that they needed to influence. So they influenced them with their wiles and their bewitchments and their spells, but they never brought the people into a place. You know why? Because they didn't enter that place on the right terms. They entered that space by bowing the knee. They entered that space because they did the opposite of what the master did in the wilderness. In their wilderness space, they bowed the knee to the enemy that was inside, and was released to them the kingdoms of this world. There's a difference between this release of finances and this economic empowerment that comes to mankind. There's a difference between the world system and the kingdom system. And what the Father's releasing to sons in this season is his system of economics. And what that looks like is wild. It's wild because if you think about the kings, how they would acquisition territories, and we're annexing dark dimensions, how they would annex these territories, and these people would become tributaries for them. This is what the Father is doing right now in the sons of Yah. He's making them come into the throne. He's making them come into their space, into the place that was already established for them to annex the territories that make people tributaries that don't follow Yah. Yeah. Kings brought their wealth into other kingdoms that were wealthier than them. Just like these sons of Amalek. You know, they said, listen, whatever you do, don't hurt us. Notice how the kings would give up their wealth to people that they identified as a threat. Listen, I'm gonna give you something. I don't want you to take nothing from me. I'm just gonna give you something. That's the threat that the sons are going to be in this moment. Because of the garment that's activated, that activated garment that we talked about yesterday. Because of that garment that is activated by the very presence of Yah, we're not allowing ourselves to be in the low place. We're only living from the high place. And I understand that there are ebbs and flows, that we're on the mountain and we're in the valley. But I'm going to tell you something. Yah is the God of the mountain, just like he's the God of the valley. And because you're in the valley in this season doesn't mean that you have to be broke and destitute. Just means that your position is changed because where you need to influence that space. So the Father's going to begin to change the influence by changing the position, but he's not going to change the position economically. He's just going to change the influence. Because we need to acquisition both the mountain and the plain. You understand what I'm saying? All right, I love y'all. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna get myself together for the rest of the day. If you had one phrase you want to say, Prophet Marlise, in a matter of 30 seconds, what would it be?
Get on board, little children.
Get on board, little children. Apostle Ace, for sure.
Glory.
Huh?
All I'm saying is glory.
Glory. Listen, we love y'all. We'll
Get
see
with
you
the
at
program.
5 a.m. tomorrow. We'll continue the conversation. Love you, life. Be blessed, sons of Yah. Listen, somebody's not a me thing. It's a we thing. We bid you shalom. Shalom.
Shalom.